Reb Berurach, Sword of the Spirit, narrated and interpreted by Wendy. 2 Shemuel, 2 Samuel. Chapter 1. Now it came to pass, after the death of Shaul, when Dawid had returned from the slaughter of the Amalek, and Dawid dwelt 2 days in Ziklag, it happened on the 3rd day, that behold, a man came out of the camp of Shaul, with his clothes torn, and a dama upon his head. And it was when he came to Dawid that he fell to the earth and worshipped. Therefore Dawid asked him, From where have you come? And he answered, I escaped from the camp of Yesharael. Then Dawid said to him, How did it go? I pray you, tell me. And he answered, The people have fled from the battle. Also many of the people have fallen and are dead. Also Shaul and Jehonatan his son are dead. Then Dawid asked the young man, who told him, How do you know that Shaul and Jehonatan his son are dead? Then the young man who spoke to him said, By chance I happened upon Mount Gilboa. I saw Shaul leaning upon his spear, and behold, the chariots and horsemen followed hard after him. And when he looked behind himself, he saw me. And he called to me, and I answered, Here I am. Then he asked me, Who are you? I am an Amaleki. He said to me again, Stand upon me, I pray you, and slay me, for anguish has come upon me, for my life is still complete within me. So I stood upon him and slew him, because I was sure that he could not live after what had fallen upon him. Also I took the crown that was upon his head, and the bracelet that was on his arm, and have brought them here to my lord. Then Dawid took hold of his clothes and tore them. Likewise all the men who were with him did so. Moreover, they mourned and wept and fasted until evening, for Shaul and Jehonatan his son, and for the people of Yehua, and for the house of Yesharael, because they had fallen by the sword. And Dawid asked the young man who told him, Where are you from? And he answered, I am the son of an immigrant, an Amaleki. Then Dawid said to him, Why are you not afraid to stretch forth your hand to destroy the Mashiach of Yehua? Then Dawid called one of the young men and said, Go near, fall upon him. Then he struck him so that he died. And Dawid said to him, Your blood is upon your head, for your mouth has testified against you, saying, I have slain the anointed of Yehua. And Dawid lamented with his eulogy over Shaul and over Jehonatan his son. Also he told them to teach the children of Yehuda the bow. Behold, it is written in the Sefer of Yeshar, The beauty of Yesharael is slain upon your high places. How are the mighty fallen? Do not tell it in Gat. Do not publish it in the streets of Ashkelon, lest the daughters of the Pelishtim rejoice, lest the daughters of the uncircumcised triumph. You mountains of Gilboa, there is no dew, nor rain upon you, nor fields of offerings. For there the shield of the mighty was vilely cast away, the shield of Shaul, without the anointing oil. For the blood of the slain, from the fat of the mighty, the bow of Jehonatan did not turn back, and the sword of Shaul did not return empty. Shaul and Jehonatan were loving and pleasant in their lives, and in their death they were not separated. They were swifter than eagles. They were stronger than lions. You daughters of Yesharael, weep over Shaul, who clothed you in scarlet with delight, who put gold ornaments upon your apparel. How have the mighty fallen in the midst of the battle, O Jehonatan, slain in your high places. I am distressed for you, Jehonatan, my brother. You have been very pleasant to me. Your love for me was wonderful, surpassing the love of a woman. How have the mighty fallen, and the weapons of war perished? Chapter 2. And it came to pass after this, that Dawid inquired of Yehua, saying, "Should I go up into any of the cities of Yehuda?" And Yehu said to him, "Go up." Then Dawid asked, "Where should I go?" And he said, "Unto Hebron." So Dawid went up there, also his 2 wives, Achinoam, the woman from Yezreel, and Abigail, the woman from Carmel, the wife of Nabal. Also Dawid brought up his men who were with him, every man with his household, and they dwelt in the cities of Hebron. Furthermore, the men of Yehuda came, and there they anointed Dawid king over the house of Yehuda. And they told Dawid, saying, "The men from Yabesh of Gilead were those who buried Shaul." So Dawid sent messengers to the men of Yabesh of Gilead, and said to them, "Endowed are you of Yehovah, for you have shown this kindness to your lord Shaul, and buried him. And now Yehovah shows kindness and truth to you. Also I will repay you for this kindness, because you have done this thing. Now therefore let your hands be strengthened, and be valiant, for your master Shaul is dead. Also the house of Yehuda has anointed me king over them." Furthermore, Abiner, the son of Ner, captain of the army of Shaul, took Ishbosheth, the son of Shaul, and brought him over to Machneam. And he made him king over Gilead, and over Asheri, and over Yezreel, and over Ephraim, and over Benjamin, and over all Yisrael. Ishbosheth, the son of Shaul, was 40 years old when he began to reign over Yisrael, and he reigned for 2 years. But the house of Yehuda followed Dawid. And the time that Dawid was king in Heshbon over the house of Yehuda was 7 years and 6 months. And Abiner, the son of Ner, and the servant of Ishbosheth, the son of Shaul, went out from Machneam to Gebaon. Also Joab, the son of Zeruiah, and the servants of Dawid went out, and they met together by the pool of Gebaon. And they sat down, one on one side of the pool, and the other on the other side of the pool. Then Abiner said to Joab, "Now let the young men arise, and sport before us." And Joab said, "Let them rise." Therefore they arose, and went over by number, 12 for Benjamin, who belonged to Ishbosheth, the son of Shaul, and 12 of the servants of Dawid. Then each one of them caught his fellow by the head, and his sword went into his fellow's side. So they all fell down together. This is why that place is called the Field of Swords, which is in Gibeon. And there was a very fierce battle that day. However, Abiner and the men of Yisrael were beaten before the servants of Dawid. Also there were 3 sons of Zeruiah there, Joab and Abishai and Ashaal. Moreover, Ashaal was as light on his feet as the wild gazelles, and Ashaal pursued after Abiner. And while going, he did not turn to the right hand nor to the left from following Abiner. Then Abiner looked behind him and asked, "Are you Ashaal?" And he answered, "I am." Then Abiner said to him, "Turn yourself aside to your right hand or to your left, and lay hold of one of the young men, and take his armor for yourself." But Ashaal would not turn aside from following him. Then Abiner said to Ashaal, "Turn yourself aside from following me. Why should I strike you to the ground? How then would I hold my face to Joab, your brother?" However, he refused to turn aside. Therefore Abiner struck him under the 5th rib with the back end of the spear, so that the spear came out behind him. And he fell down there and died in that place. And it came to pass that everyone came to the place where Ashaal fell, and died, and stood still. Then Joab and Abishai pursued after Abiner, and the sun went down when they came to the hill of Ammah, which is before Giach, by the way of the wilderness of Gibeon. Then the children of Benjamin gathered themselves together after Abiner, and became one troop, and stood on top of the hill. Then Abiner called to Joab and said, "Will the sword devour forever? Do you not know that there will be bitterness in the end? How long will it be then until you bid the people to return from following their brethren?" Therefore Joab said, As Elohim lives, except you had spoken, surely the men of the people would have gone down pursuing his brother until morning time. So Joab blew a trumpet, and all the people stood still, and did not pursue after Yeshariel any more, nor fought with them any more. Furthermore, Abiner and his men walked all that night through the plain, and passed over Yarden, and went through all Bitrun, and they came to Machnaam. And Joab returned from following Abiner. Also, when he had gathered all the people together, 19 men and Ashual were missing from the servants of Dawid. However, the servants of Dawid had beaten Binyamin and Abiner. 360 men died. Then they took up Ashual and buried him in the sepulchre of his father, which is in Beit Lechem. Lastly, Joab and his men traveled all night, and they came to Hebron at the break of the day. Chapter 3. Now there was a long war between the house of Shaul and the house of Dawid. But Dawid waxed stronger and stronger, and the house of Shaul waxed weaker and weaker. Furthermore, sons were born to Dawid in Hebron, and his firstborn was Amnon of Achiknaam, the woman from Yezra'al, and the second Kileab of Abigail, the woman from Carmel, the wife of Nabal, and the third Absalom, the son of Ma'akah, the daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur, and the fourth Adoniah, the son of Haggit, and the fifth Shepath Yehu, the son of Abithal, and the sixth Yitream by Aeglah, the wife of Dawid. These were born to Dawid in Hebron. And it came to pass, while there was war between the house of Shaul and the house of Dawid, that Abiner made himself strong for the house of Shaul. Moreover, Shaul had a concubine, whose name was Rizpah, the daughter of Aiah. And this was told to Abiner, "Why have you gone in to the concubine of my father?" Then Abiner was very angry because of the words of Ish-Bosheth, and said, "Am I the head of a dog today against Yehudah, who shows kindness to the house of Shaul your father, to his brethren, and to his friends, and have not delivered you into the hand of Dawid? Yet today you charge me with a fault concerning this woman? Thus Elohim will do for Abner, and more for him, for as Yehudah has sworn to Dawid, even so I will swear to him, to transfer the kingdom from the house of Shaul, and set up the throne of Dawid over Yeshariel, and over Yehudah, from Dan even to Be'er Sheba." Moreover, he could not answer another word to Abiner, because he feared him. Therefore Abiner sent messengers to Dawid on his behalf, saying, "Who does this land belong to? Make yourself a league with me, and behold, my hand will be with you, to bring about all Yeshariel to you." Therefore he replied, "Good, I will make a league with you. But I will require one thing for you to command. You will not see my face unless you first bring Michal, the daughter of Shaul, when you come to see my face." Moreover, Dawid sent messengers to Ish-Bosheth, the son of Shaul, saying, "Deliver me my wife, Michal, who I married to myself for 100 foreskins from the Pelishtim." Therefore Ish-Bosheth sent and took her from her husband, Palthiel, the son of Laisha. However, her husband went with her, walking and weeping behind her, until Bahurim. Then Abiner said to him, "Go return." So he returned. And Abiner had communication with the elders of Yeshariel. In times past, you desired Dawid to be king over you. Now then, do it, for Yehudah has spoken of Dawid, saying, "By the hand of my servant Dawid, I will save my people, Yeshariel, out of the hand of the Pelishtim, and out of the hand of all their enemies." Also Abiner spoke in the ears of the Binyamin. Also Abiner went and spoke in the ears of Dawid in Hebron. All this seemed good to Yeshariel, and this seemed good to the entire house of Binyamin. Then Abiner and 20 men came with him to Dawid in Hebron, and Dawid made Abiner and the men who were with him a feast. And Abiner said to Dawid, I will arise and go, and I will gather all Yisrael to my lord the king, that they may make a league with you, and that you may reign over all that your heart desires. Therefore Dawid sent Abiner away, and he went in peace. Moreover, behold, Joab and a troop of servants of Dawid came, bringing a great plunder with them. However, Abiner was not with Dawid in Hebron, for he had sent him away, and he went in peace. When Joab and the entire army who was with him came, they told Joab, saying, Abiner the son of Ner came to the king, and he sent him away, and he went in peace. Then Joab came to the king and said, What have you done? Behold, Abiner came to you. Why is it that you sent him away, and he walks the walkway? You know Abiner the son of Ner, that he came to deceive you, and to learn your departures and your returns, and to learn all that you do. And when Joab came out from Dawid, he sent messengers after Abiner, who brought him again from the well Sirah, but Dawid did not know it. And when Abiner was returned to Hebron, Joab took him aside in the gate to speak to him quietly, and struck him there under the 5th rib. Thus he died for the blood of Ashaal, his brother. And afterward, when Dawid heard it, he said, I and my kingdom are guiltless before Yahweh, forever from the blood of Abiner, the son of Ner. Let it rest upon Joab, and on the entire house of his father. And let it not fall from the house of Joab one who has an issue, or who is a leper, or who leans on a staff, or who falls by the sword, or who lacks bread. Thus Joab and Abishai his brother slew Abiner, because he had slain their brother Ashaal at Gibeon during the battle. Then Dawid said to Joab and to all the people who were with him, Tear your clothes, and gird yourself with sackcloth, and mourn before Abiner. Also King Dawid followed the deathbed. Therefore they buried Abiner at Hebron. Then the king lifted up his voice and wept at the grave of Abiner, and all the people wept. And the king lamented over Abiner, and said, Why did Abiner die, like the death of a bastard? Your hands were not bound, your feet were not feathered, like a man who had fallen before wicked men. Thus you fell. And all the people wept over him again. And when all the people came to encourage Dawid to eat grain while it was still day, Dawid swore, saying, So do Elohim to me, and more so also, if I tasted bread or anything else until the sun is down. And all the people took notice, and it pleased them, because everything that the king did pleased all the people. For all the people and all Yisrael understood that day that the murder of Abiner, the son of Ner, was not from the king. Then the king said to his servants, Do you not know that a captain and a great man in Yisrael has fallen today? Today I am vulnerable, yet the anointed king, and these men, the sons of Zeruiah, are too difficult for me. Yahweh will reward the evildoer according to his wickedness. Chapter 4. And when the son of Shaul heard that Abiner was dead in Hebron, his hands were feeble, and all of Yisrael was troubled. And the son of Shaul had 2 men who were the captains of troops. The name of one was Baana, and the name of the other Rahab, the sons of Rimmon, a Beeruti, of the children of Benjamin. For Beerut also was attributed to Benjamin. And the Beerutim fled to Gid Aim, and were sojourners there until this day. Furthermore, Jehonatan, the son of Shaul, had a son who was lame of foot. He was 5 years old when the tidings came of Shaul and Jehonatan out of Yezreel, and the nurse took him up and fled. And it came to pass, as she hurried to flee, that he fell and became lame, and his name was Mephibosheth. Furthermore, Rahab and Baana, the sons of Rimmon the Beeruti, went and came around the heat of the day to the house of Ishbosheth, who laid upon a bed at noon. And they came there into the midst of the house, as though they would have fetched wheat, and they struck him under the fifth rib. Moreover, Rahab and Baanah, the brothers, escaped, for when they came into the house, he laid on his bed in his bedchamber, and they struck him, and slew him, and beheaded him, and took his head, and got themselves away through the plain all night. Then they brought the head of Ishbosheth to Dawid at Hebron, and said to the king, Behold, the head of Ishbosheth, the son of Shaul, your enemy, who sought your life. Today Yehovah has avenged my lord the king of Shaul and his seed. Therefore Dawid responded to Rahab and Baanah his brother, the sons of Rimmon the Beerothi, and said to them, As Yehovah lives, who has redeemed my soul out of all adversity, when one told me, saying, Behold, Shaul is dead, thinking to have brought me good tidings, I took hold of him and slew him in Ziklag. That is what I gave him for the tidings. How much more when wicked men have slain a righteous person in his own house upon his bed? Now, should I not require his blood from your hands, and remove you from the earth? Then Dawid commanded his young men, and they slew them, and cut off their hands and their feet, and hanged them up over the pool in Hebron. Then they took the head of Ishbosheth, and buried it in the sepulchre of Abiner in Hebron. Chapter 5. Then all the tribes of Yashareel came to Dawid at Hebron, and spoke, saying, Behold, we are your bone and your flesh. Also, during the time when Shaul was king over us, you were the one who led out and brought in Yashareel. And Yehovah said to you, You will shepherd my people, Yashareel, and you will be a prince over Yashareel. Therefore all the elders of Yashareel came to the king at Hebron, and King Dawid made a league with them in Hebron before Yehovah, and they anointed Dawid king over Yashareel. Dawid was 30 years old when he began to reign. He reigned for 40 years. In Hebron he reigned over Yehudah for 7 years and 6 months, and in Yerushalayim he reigned for 33 years over all Yashareel and Yehudah. Furthermore, the king and his men went to Yerushalayim, to the Yebusi, the inhabitants of the land, who spoke to Dawid, saying, You cannot come in here, unless you take away the blind and lame who say you cannot come in. Nevertheless, Dawid took the stronghold of Zion. The same is the city of Dawid. Then on that day Dawid said, Attack all the Yebusi, and those in the sewers, also the blind and the lame, who hate the life of Dawid. For the blind and the lame have said, You cannot enter this house. Then Dawid dwelt in the fort, and called it the city of Dawid. And Dawid built all around it, from the rampart and inside. Moreover, Dawid went on, and grew great, and Yehovah, Elohim of hosts, was with him. And Hiram, king of Sur, sent messengers to Dawid, and cedar trees, and carpenters, and masons, and they built Dawid a house. Therefore Dawid knew that Yehovah had established him king over Yashareel, and that he had exalted his kingdom for the sake of his people, Yashareel. Furthermore, Dawid took more concubines and wives out of Yerushalayim, after he had come from Hebron, and there were more sons and daughters born to him. And these are the names of those who were born to him in Yerushalayim: Shemua, and Shubab, and Natan, and Shelumah, Yibchar, and Elishua, and Nepeg, and Yapiah, and Elishama, and Eliadu, and Elipeleth. However, when the Pelishtim heard that they had anointed Dawid king over Yashareel, all the Pelishtim came up to seek Dawid. Then Dawid heard and went down to the hold. Also the Pelishtim came and spread themselves in the valley of Rephaim. And Dawid inquired of Yehovah, saying, If I go up to the Pelishtim, will you deliver them into my hand? And Yehu said to Dawid, Go up, for a gift I give the Pelishtim into your hand. And Dawid came to Baal Peratzim, and Dawid struck them there, and said, Yehu has broken forth upon my enemies before me, like a breach of waters. Therefore he called the name of that place Baal Peratzim. And they left their images there. So Dawid and his men burned them. And the Pelishtim came up yet again, and spread themselves in the valley of Rephaim. And when Dawid inquired of Yehu, he said, You will not go up, encompass behind them. Then come to them in front of the mulberry trees, and there will be the sound of marching in the tops of the mulberry trees. Then you will cut, for then Yehu will go out before you to strike the encampment of the Pelishtim. And Dawid did so, as Yehu had commanded him, and struck the Pelishtim from Geba until you come to Gezer. Chapter 6. And Dawid gathered together all the chosen of Yeshariel, 30,000. And Yehu arose and went with all the people who were with him from Baali to Yehuda, to bring the ark of Yehu up from there, so that we will proclaim the name of Yehu of hosts. The cherubim dwell upon it. Therefore they set the ark of Elohim upon a new cart, and brought it out of the house of Amminadab, which was in Gibaut. Also Outza and Ahiu, the sons of Amminadab, drove the new cart. And they brought it out of the house of Amminadab, which was at Gibaut. Ahiu accompanied the ark of Elohim, and went before the ark. Moreover, Dawid and all the house of Yeshariel played before Yehu with all types of instruments, for wood, and on harps, and on psalteries, and on timbrels, and on cornets, and on cymbals. However, when they came to the threshing floor of Nakun, Outza put forth his hand to the ark of Elohim, and took hold of it, because the oxen shook it. And the anger of Yehu was kindled against Outza, and Elohim struck him for the mistake. And there he died beside the ark of Elohim. Now this was upsetting to Dawid, concerning the breach of Yehu that broke through within Outza. Thus he called the name of the place Paretz Outza to this day. Moreover, Dawid became afraid of Yehu that day, and said, How will the ark of Yehu come to me? Therefore Dawid did not move the ark of Yehu to himself into the city of Dawid, but Dawid carried it aside into the house of Obed-Edom the Gitti. And the ark of Yehu continued in the house of Obed-Edom the Gitti for 3 months, and Yehu endowed Obed-Edom and his entire household. And this was told to King Dawid, saying, Yehu has endowed the house of Obed-Edom, and all who belong to him, because of the ark of Elohim. Therefore Dawid went and brought up the ark of Elohim from the house of Obed-Edom into the city of Dawid with gladness. And it came to pass, when those who carried the ark of Yehu had gone 6 paces, he sacrificed oxen and fatlings. And Dawid danced before Yehu with all his might. Also Dawid was girded with a linen ephod. Thus Dawid and the entire house of Yeshariel brought up the ark of Yehu with shouting and with the sound of the trumpet. Then, as the ark of Yehu came into the city of Dawid, Michal, the daughter of Shaul, looked through a window and saw King David leaping and dancing before Yehu, and she despised him in her heart. Furthermore, they brought in the ark of Yehu and set it in its place, in the midst of the tabernacle, which Dawid had pitched for it. And Dawid offered ascension offerings and restoration sacrifices before Yehu. And as soon as Dawid had finished offering the ascension offerings and restoration sacrifices, he endowed the people in the name of Yehu of hosts. And he shared among all the people, among the whole multitude of Yeshariel, women as well as men, to every one a cake of bread, and a good piece of meat, and a flagon of wine. Then all the people departed, every one to his house. Moreover, Dawid returned to endow his household, and Michal, the daughter of Shaul, came out to meet Dawid, and said, How gracious is the king of Yashariel today, who has uncovered himself in the eyes of the handmaids of the servants, like one of the vain fellows who shamelessly uncovers himself. Then Dawid said to Michal, "It was before Yehua, who chose me ahead of your father and ahead of his entire house, to appoint me ruler over the people of Yehua, over Yeshariel. Therefore I played before Yehua, and I was cursed for this? Yet I am humble in my own sight. However, the handmaids of whom you spoke, I will be honored." Therefore Michal, the daughter of Shaul, had no children to the day of her death. Chapter 7. And it came to pass when the king sat in his house, and Yehua had given him rest from all his enemies who were around, the king said to Nathan the prophet, "See now, I dwell in a house of cedar, but the ark of Elohim dwells within curtains." And Nathan said to the king, "Go, do all that is in your heart, for Yehua is with you." And it came to pass that night that the word of Yehua came to Nathan, saying, "Go and tell my servant Dawid, thus saith Yehua, Will you build a house for me to dwell in? For I have not dwelt in a house since the time that I brought up the children of Yeshariel out of Mitzrayim, even to this day. But I have traveled in a tent and in a tabernacle. During all my travels with all the children of Yeshariel, have I spoken a word with any of the tribes of Yeshariel, whom I charged to shepherd my people, Yeshariel, to say, Why not build me a house of cedar? Now therefore you will say this to my servant Dawid, Thus saith Yehua of hosts, I took you from the sheepcot, from following the sheep, to become the ruler over my people, over Yeshariel, and I was with you wherever you went, and have cut off all your enemies out of your sight, and have made you a great name, likened to the greatest names that are in the earth. Moreover, I will appoint a place for my people Yeshariel, and I will plant them, so that they may dwell in a place of their own, and move no more, nor will the children of wickedness afflict them any more, like previously. And from the time that I commanded you to judge my people Yeshariel, and gave you rest from all your enemies, also Yehud tells you that he will make you a house. And when your days are fulfilled, and you sleep with your fathers, I will set up your seed after you, who will proceed out of your bowels, and I will establish his kingdom. He will build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be his father, and he will be my son. If he commits iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of a man, and with the stripes of the children of Adam. However, my mercy will not depart from him, like I took it from Shaul, whom I put away before you. And your house and your kingdom will be established forever before you. Your throne will be established forever. According to all these words and this vision, Nathan spoke to Dawid. Then King Dawid went in and sat before Yehua, and he said, Who am I, O Adonai Yehua? And what is my house, that you have brought me so far? Yet this is a small thing in your sight, O Adonai Yehua. Also you have spoken of the future house of your servant, and this is the teaching of the Adam. O Adonai Yehua, and what can Dawid say more to you? For you, Adonai Yehua, know your servant. For your word's sake, and according to your own heart, you have done all these things, to make your servant know. Therefore you are great, O Yehua Elohim, for none are like you, nor is there any Elohim beside you, according to all that we have heard with our ears. And what nation in the earth is like your people, like Yeshariel, whom Elohim went to redeem for a people unto himself, and to make himself a name, and to do great and fearsome things for your land before your people, who you redeemed unto yourself from Mitzrayim, the nations and their deities. For you have confirmed to yourself your people Yeshariel, to be a people unto you forever, and you, Adon, have become their Elohim. And now, O Yahweh Elohim, the word that you have spoken concerning your servant, and concerning his house, establish it forever, and do as you have said. And let your name be magnified forever, saying, Yahweh of hosts is the Elohim over Yeshariel, and let the house of your servant David be established before you. For you, O Yahweh of hosts, Elohim of Yeshariel, have revealed to your servant, saying, I will build you a house. Therefore has your servant found in his heart to pray this prayer to you. And now, Adonai, Yahweh, you are that Elohim, and your words are true, and you have promised this goodness to your servant. Therefore, now let it please you to endow the house of your servant, that it may continue forever before you. For you, Adonai, Yahweh, have spoken it, and with your endowment let the house of your servant be endowed forever. Chapter 8. And after this it came to pass that David struck the Pelishtim and subdued them, and David took Meteg Hama out of the hand of the Pelishtim. Also he struck Moab, and measured them with a line, casting them down to the ground. Those who measured 2 lines were put to death, and 1 full line was kept alive. Therefore Moab became the servants of David, and brought gifts. Also David struck Hadadezer, the son of Rehab, king of Zubah, as he went to recover his border at the river Parat. And David took 1,000 chariots, and 700 horsemen, and 20,000 footmen from him. Also David hamstrung all the chariot horses. However, he reserved 100 chariots of them. And when Demeshek of Aram came to help Hadadezer, king of Zubah, David slew 20,000 men of Aram. Then David put garrisons in Demeshek of Aram, and Aram became the servants of David, and brought gifts. And Yahweh preserved David wherever he went. And David took the golden shields that were on the servants of Hadadezer, and brought them to Yerushalayim, and from Betach, and from Beruti, and from Hadadezer, King David took a large amount of copper. When Tai, king of Hamath, heard that David had beaten the entire army of Hadadezer, then Tai sent Hiram, his son, to the king, to salute him and to endow him, because he had fought against Hadadezer and beaten him. For Hadadezer had wars with Tai. And with him was brought vessels of silver, and vessels of gold, and vessels of copper. And these King David dedicated unto Yahweh, with the gold and silver that he had dedicated of all the nations he had subdued, of Aram, and of Moab, and of the children of Ammon, and of the Pelishtim, and of Amalek, and of the plunder of Hadadezer, the son of Rahab, the king of Zubah. And David made a name when he returned from defeating Aram in the valley of Salt, 18,000. And he put garrisons in Adum. Throughout all Adum he put garrisons, and all of those became the servants of David. And Yahweh preserved David wherever he went. And David reigned over all Yeshariel. And David executed judgment and righteousness to all his people. And Joab the son of Zeruiah was over the army. And Yehoshaphat the son of Achilud was recorder. And Zadud son of Achithud and Ahimelech the son of Abiater were the priests. And Sheraiah was the scribe. And Beni-Yehu the son of Yehoiada, and the Kereti, and the Peleti, and the sons of David became priests. Chapter 9. And David said, Is there still anyone left from the house of Shaul, so that I may show him kindness for Jehonathan's sake? And there was a servant from the house of Shaul, whose name was Ziba. And when they had called him to David, the king asked him, Are you Ziba? And he answered, Your servant. Then the king asked, "Is there not any from the house of Shaul, so that I may show the kindness of Elohim to him?" And Ziba said to the king, "Yehunatan still has a son who has lame feet." And the king said, "Where is he?" And Ziba answered the king, "Behold, he is in the house of Meker, the son of Amiel, in Ludebar." Then King Dawid sent and fetched him out of the house of Meker, the son of Amiel, from Ludebar. Now when Mephibosheth, the son of Yehunatan, the son of Shaul, had come to Dawid, he fell on his face and did reverence. And Dawid said, "Mephibosheth." And he answered, "Behold, your servant." And Dawid said, "Fear not, for surely I will show you kindness for the sake of your father Yehunatan, and I will restore all the land of Shaul, your father, to you, and you will eat bread at my table continually." Therefore he bowed himself and said, "Who is your servant, that you would look upon such a dead dog as I?" Then the king called Ziba, the servant of Shaul, and said to him, "I have given to the son of your master all that belonged to Shaul, and to his entire house. Therefore you and your sons and your servants will till the Adamah for him, and you will bring in what the son of your master may have for food to eat. But Mephibosheth, the son of your master, will eat bread at my table always." Now Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants. Then Ziba said to the king, "According to all that the Lord my king has commanded his servant, so your servant will do. As for Mephibosheth, he will eat at my table like one of the sons of the king." Also Mephibosheth had a young son, whose name was Micah. And all who dwelt in the house of Ziba were servants of Mephibosheth. However, Mephibosheth dwelt in Yerushalayim, for he ate at the king's table continually, and he was lame on both of his feet. Chapter 10. And it came to pass after this, that the king of the children of Ammon died, and Hanun his son reigned in his stead. Then Dawid said, "I will show kindness to Hanun, the son of Nahash, like his father showed kindness to me." Therefore Dawid sent comfort to him for his father by the hand of his servants. And the servants of Dawid came into the land of the children of Ammon. And the captains of the children of Ammon said to Hanun, "Do you think that Dawid honors your father, that he has sent comforters to you? Has Dawid not sent his servants to you to search the city, and to spy it out, and to overthrow it?" Therefore Hanun took the servants of Dawid and shaved off half of their beards, and cut their garments in the middle to their buttocks, and sent them away. When they told it to Dawid, he sent to meet them, because the men were greatly ashamed. And the king said, "Wait at Jericho until your beards grow, then return." And the children of Ammon saw that they stank before Dawid. So the children of Ammon sent and hired Aram of Beit Rehub, and Aram of Zebah, 20,000 footmen, and of King Maacah 1,000 men, and of Ishtab 12,000 men. Therefore, when Dawid heard of it, he sent Joab and the entire army of mighty men. Then the children of Ammon came out and put the battle into formation at the entrance of the gate. However, Aram of Zebah, and of Rahab, and of Ishtab, and of Maacah were by themselves in the field. And when Joab saw that the front of the battle was against him, before and behind, he chose all of his choice men of Yeshareel, and put them in formation against Aram. And he delivered the rest of the people into the hand of Abishai his brother, so that he might put them in formation against the children of Ammon. And he said, "If Aram is too strong for me, then you will help me. But if the children of Ammon is too strong for you, then I will come help you. Be of good courage, and let us play the men for our people, and for the cities of our Elohim, and Yahweh do that which seems good." Then Joab and the people who were with him drew near to the battle against Aram, and they fled before him. And when the children of Ammon saw that Aram fled, then they fled before Abishai also, and they entered into the city. Therefore Joab returned from the children of Ammon, and came to Jerusalem. And when Aram saw that they were beaten before Yeshareal, they gathered themselves together. And Hadadezer sent and brought out Aram, who was beyond the river. And they came to Chehlam, and Shubak, the captain of the army of Hadadezer, went before them. And when it was told to Dawid, he gathered all Yeshareal together, and passed over the Yarden, and came to Chehlam, and Aram set themselves in formation against Dawid, and fought with him. And Aram fled before Yeshareal, and Dawid slew 700 chariots of Aram, and 40,000 horsemen, and struck Shubak, the captain of their army, who died there. And when all the servants of the king of Hadadezer saw that they were beaten before Yeshareal, they made peace with Yeshareal, and served them. Moreover, Aram feared to help the children of Ammon any more. Chapter 11. And it came to pass after the year was expired, during the time when kings go forth to battle, that Dawid sent Joab and his servants and all Yeshareal with him. And they destroyed the children of Ammon, and besieged Rabbah. But Dawid remained still at Jerusalem. Then, during the evening, Dawid rose up from off his bed, and walked upon the roof of the king's house. And from the roof he saw a woman washing herself. Also the woman was very beautiful to look upon. So Dawid sent and inquired about the woman, and it was said, "Is this not Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite?" Moreover, Dawid sent messengers and took her. Then she came to him, and he laid with her, and she was purified from her uncleanliness. Then she returned to her house. However, the woman conceived. Then she sent and told Dawid, and said, "I am with child." Therefore Dawid sent to Joab, "Send me Uriah the Hittite." So Joab sent Uriah to Dawid. And when Uriah had come to him, Dawid asked him how Joab was, and how the people were, and how the war progressed. Then Dawid said to Uriah, "Go down to your house and wash your feet." So Uriah departed from the house of the king. Also a gift from the king followed him. However, Uriah slept at the door of the king's house with all the servants of his lord, and did not go down to his house. And when they had told Dawid, saying, "Uriah did not go down to his house," Dawid asked Uriah, "Did you not return from your journey? Why do you not go down to your house?" Therefore Uriah answered Dawid, "The ark and Yeshareal and Yehuda abide in tents. Also my lord Joab and the servants of my lord are encamped in the open fields. Why then should I go into my house, to eat and to drink, and to lie with my wife? As you live, and as your soul lives, I will not do this thing." Therefore Dawid said to Uriah, "Tarry here today also, and tomorrow I will let you depart." So Uriah abode in Jerusalem that day and the next. And when Dawid called him, he ate and drank before him, and he made him drunk. And at evening he went out to lie on his bed with the servants of his lord, but he did not go down to his house. And it came to pass in the morning that Dawid wrote a letter to Joab, and sent it by the hand of Uriah. And he wrote in the letter, saying, "Set Uriah in the front lines of the fiercest battle, then retreat from him, so that he may be smitten and die." And it came to pass when Joab observed the city, that he assigned Uriah to a place where he knew that the valiant men were. And the men of the city came out, and fought with Joab, and some of the people of the servants of Dawid fell there, and Uriah the Hittite died also. Then Joab sent and told Dawid all the things concerning the war. and charged the messenger, saying, "When you have finished telling the matter of the war to the king, and if the king's wrath arises, and he says to you, 'Why did you approach so near to the city when you fought? Did you not know that they would shoot from the wall? Who struck Abimelech, the son of Yerubeshet? Did a woman not cast a piece of millstone upon him from the wall, so that he died at Tebetz? Why did you go near the wall?' Then you will say, 'Your servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also.'" So the messenger went and came and showed Dawid all that Joab had sent him for. Therefore the messenger told Dawid, "Surely the men prevailed against us, and came out to us into the field. Yet we were upon them even to the entering of the gate. And the archers shot from off the wall upon your servants, and some of the servants of your king are dead. And your servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also." Then Dawid said to the messenger, "Thus you will say to Joab, 'Do not let this thing displease you, for the sword devours one like another. Make your battle more strong against the city, and overthrow it. Then you will encourage him.'" And when the wife of Uriah heard that Uriah her husband was dead, she mourned for her husband. And when the mourning was past, Dawid sent and fetched her to his house. And she became his wife, and bore him a son. But the thing that Dawid had done displeased Yahweh. Chapter 12. And Yahweh sent Nathan to Dawid. Therefore he came to him, and said to him, "There were 2 men in one city. One was rich, and the other poor. The rich had a great many flocks and herds. But the poor man had nothing, except one little ewe lamb, which he had bought and nourished. And it grew up together with him and his children. It ate from his own grain, and drank from his own cup, and laid in his bosom. And so it was like a daughter to him. Furthermore, a traveler came to the rich man. However, he was unwilling to take from his own flock or from his own herd to prepare for the wandering man who had visited him. Instead, he took the lamb from the poor man, and he prepared it for the man who came to him. Therefore the anger of Dawid was greatly kindled against the man, and he said to Nathan, "As Yahweh lives, that man who has done this thing will surely die, and he will restore the lamb 4-fold, because he did this thing, and because he did not have pity." Then Nathan told Dawid, "You are the man. Thus saith Yahweh Elohim of Yeshariel, I anointed you king over Yeshariel, and I delivered you out of the hand of Shaul, and I gave you the house of your master, and your master's wives into your bosom, and I gave you the house of Yeshariel and of Yehuda. And if that was too little, I would have added even more to you. Why have you despised the commandment of Yahweh to do evil in my sight? You have killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword, and have taken his wife to be your wife, and have killed him with the sword of the children of Ammon. Now therefore the sword will never depart from your house, because you have despised me, and have taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your wife. Thus saith Yahweh, Behold, I will raise up evil against you out of your own house, and I will take your wives before your eyes, and give them to your neighbors, and he will lie with your wives in the sight of the sun, for you did it secretly. But I will do this thing before all Yeshariel, and before the sun." And Dawid said to Nathan, "I have sinned against Yahweh." And Nathan said to Dawid, "Also Yahweh has put away your sin. You will not die. However, by this deed the enemies of Yahweh have contempt. Therefore the child that is born to you will surely die." Then Nathan departed to his house. Furthermore, Yahweh struck the child that the wife of Uriah bore to Dawid, and it was very sick. Therefore Dawid besought Elohim for the child. And Dawid fasted and went in, and laid all night upon the earth. And the elders of his house arose to him to raise him up from the earth, but he would not, nor did he eat bread with them. And it came to pass on the 7th day that the child died. And the servants of Dawid feared to tell him that the child was dead. For they said, Behold, while the child was still alive, we spoke to him, and he would not hearken to our voice. How then might he be troubled if we tell him that the child is dead? But when Dawid saw that the servants whispered, Dawid understood that the child was dead. Therefore he asked his servants, Is the child dead? And they answered, He is dead. Then Dawid arose from the earth, and washed, and anointed, and changed his apparel, and came to the house of Yahweh, and worshipped. Then he came to his own house, and when he requested, they set bread before him, and he ate. Then his servants asked him, What is this thing that you have done? You fasted and wept for a child while alive, but when the child was dead, you arose and ate bread. And he answered, While the child was still alive, I fasted and wept, for I said, Who can tell whether Elohim will be gracious to me, so that my child may live? But now he is dead. Why should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I will go to him, but he will not return to me. Moreover, Dawid comforted Bathsheba, his wife. So he went in to her and laid with her. Then she bore a son, and he called his name Shelumo. And Yahweh loved him. And he was sent into the hand of Nathan, the prophet. And he called his name Yedidiah, because of Yahweh. Furthermore, Joab fought against Rabbah of the children of Ammon, and took the royal city. And Joab sent messengers to Dawid and said, I have fought against Rabbah, and have taken the city waters. Now therefore gather the rest of the people together, and encamp against the city, and take it. Or else I will take the city, and it will be called after my name. So Dawid gathered all the people together, and went to Rabbah, and fought against it, and took it. Also he took their king's crown from off his head. The weight of it was a talent of gold with precious stones, and it was set upon the head of Dawid. And he brought forth the plunder of the city in great abundance. Also he brought forth the people who were in it, and he put them under the burden of saws, and of iron tools, and of iron axes. Also he made them pass through the brick kiln. Thus he did to all the cities of the children of Ammon. Then Dawid and all the people returned to Yerushalayim. Chapter 13. And it came to pass after this that Absalom the son of Dawid had a fair sister, whose name was Tamar. And Amnon the son of Dawid loved her. And Amnon was so troubled that he fell sick for his sister Tamar. For she was a virgin, and Amnon thought it would be hard for him to do anything to her. But Amnon had a friend whose name was Yonadab, the son of Shimeo, the brother of Dawid, and Yonadab was a very crafty man. And he said to him, Why are you, the son of a king, wasting away from day to day? Will you not tell me? And Amnon said to him, I love Tamar, the sister of my brother Absalom. And Yonadab said to him, Lay down on your bed and make yourself sick, and when your father comes to you, say to him, I pray you, let my sister Tamar come, and give me grain, and prepare grain in my sight, so that I may see it, and I may eat from her hand. Therefore Amnon laid it down, and when the king had come to see him, Amnon said to the king, I pray you, let Tamar my sister come, and make me a couple of cakes in my sight, so that I may eat at her hand. Therefore Dawid sent home to Tamar, saying, Go now to the house of your brother Amnon, and prepare him grain. Moreover, Tamar went to the house of her brother Amnon, and he was laid down. And she took flour and kneaded it, and made cakes in his sight, and baked the cakes. And she took a pan and poured it out before him. But he refused to eat. And Amnon said, Send out all the men from me. and every man went out from him. Then Amnon said to Tamar, "Bring the grain into the chamber, so that I may eat from your hand." Therefore Tamar took the cakes that she had made and brought them into the chamber of Amnon. And when she had brought them to him to eat, he took hold of her and said to her, "Come, lie with me, my sister." But she answered him, "No, my brother, do not force me, for no such thing should be done in Yashariel. Do not do this folly. And I, where will I go with my shame? And as for you, you will be like one of the bastards of Yashariel. Now therefore I pray you, speak to the king, for he will not withhold me from you." However, he would not hearken to her voice, but being stronger than her, forced her and laid with her. Then Amnon hated her very much, such that the hatred within him for her was greater than the love that he had for her. Therefore Amnon said to her, "Rise up, go away." Then she said to him, "There is no reason. This evil in sending me away is greater than the other that you did to me." But he would not hearken to her. Moreover, he called his servants who ministered to him, and said, "Now remove this from me, and bolt the door behind her." And a garment of diverse colors was upon her, for with such robes the virgin daughters of the king were clothed. Then his servant brought her out and bolted the door after her. Then Tamar put ashes on her head, and tore her garment of diverse colors that was on her, and laid her hand on her head, and went crying. Therefore Absalom her brother asked her, "Has Amnon your brother been with you? But hold now your peace, my sister. He is your brother. Do not regard this thing." So Tamar remained desolate in the house of her brother Absalom. However, when King Dawid heard of all these things, he was very angry. But Absalom did not speak to his brother Amnon, good or bad, for Absalom hated Amnon, because he had forced his sister Tamar. And it came to pass after 2 full years that Absalom had sheep shearers in Baal Chatzor, which is beside Apraim, and Absalom invited all the sons of the king. Moreover, Absalom came to the king and said, "Behold now, your servant has sheep shearers. Let the king, I beseech you, and his servants go with your servant." But the king said to Absalom, "No, my son, let us not go now, or else we will be a burden to you." But he pressed him. Still he would not go, but endowed him. Then Absalom said, "If not, I pray you, let my brother Amnon go with us." And the king said to him, "Why should he go with you?" But Absalom pressed him, so that he let Amnon and all the sons of the king go with him. Now Absalom had commanded his servants, saying, "Mark now, when Amnon's heart is merry with wine, and when I say to you, 'Smite Amnon,' do not be afraid. Have I not commanded you? Be courageous and valiant." Therefore the servants of Absalom did to Amnon like Absalom had commanded them. Then all the sons of the king arose, and each man got up upon his mule and fled. And it came to pass, while they were on the way, that tidings came to Dawid, saying, "Absalom has slain all the sons of the king, and there is not one left of them." Therefore the king rose up and tore his garments, and laid on the earth, and all his servants stood by with clothes torn. But Yonadab, the son of Shimeo, the brother of Dawid, answered and said, "Do not let my lord think that all the young men, the sons of the king, were killed by him, for only Amnon is dead, for Absalom planned it. This has been determined since the day that he forced his sister Tamar. Now therefore, do not let my lord the king take this thing to his heart, to think that all the sons of the king are dead, for only Amnon is dead." Furthermore, Absalom fled, and the young men who kept the watch lifted up their eyes and looked, and behold, many people came from the way of the hillside behind him. Therefore Yonadab said to the king, "Behold, the sons of the king are coming. Like your servant said, so it is." And it came to pass, as soon as he had finished speaking, that, behold, the sons of the king came, and they lifted up their voice and wept. Also the king and all his servants wept greatly. But Absalom fled and went to Talmai, the son of Animahud, king of Geshur. And Dawid mourned for his son every day. Moreover, Absalom fled and went to Geshur, and was there for 3 years. However, King Dawid longed to go to Absalom, for he was comforted concerning Amnon, seeing he was dead. Chapter 14. Now Joab, the son of Zeruiah, understood the king's heart towards Absalom. Therefore Joab sent to Tekoa, and fetched a woman from there, and said to her, I pray you, pretend to be a mourner. Now put on mourning apparel, and do not anoint yourself with oil, but be like a woman who has mourned for the dead a long time. Then go to the king and speak in this manner to him. Thus Joab put the words in her mouth. And when the woman of Tekoa spoke to the king, she fell on her face to the ground and worshipped, and said, Help, O king. And the king asked her, What troubles you? Then she answered, Truly, I am a widow woman, and my husband is dead. And your handmaid had 2 sons, and they strove together in the field, and there was no one to separate them. Then one struck the other and slew him. And behold, the whole family has risen up against your handmaid. And they said, Deliver him who struck his brother, so that we may kill him, for the life of his brother whom he slew. And we will destroy your heir also. And so they will quench my coal that is left. And they will not leave my husband a name, a reminder upon the Adamah. And the king said to the woman, Go to your house, and I will give charge concerning you. Then the woman of Tekoa said to the king, My lord, O king, the iniquity is on me, and on my father's house, and the king and his throne is guiltless. Therefore the king said, Whoever speaks to you, bring him to me, and he will not touch you any more. Then she said, I pray you, may the king remember Yahweh your Elohim, so that you will not allow the avengers of blood to destroy any more, or else they will destroy my son. And he said, As Yahweh lives, there will not be one hair from your son fall to the earth. Then the woman said, Let your handmaid, I pray you, speak a word to my lord the king. And he said, Say on. And the woman said, Why then have you thought such a thing against the people of Elohim? For the king speaks this thing as one who is guilty, in that the king does not return home his banished son again. For like water that is spilt on the ground and cannot be recovered, so too we must die. Elohim does not respect any person, yet he provides ways so that those who are banished do not remain banished. Now I have come to speak of this thing to my lord the king, because the people have made me afraid. And your handmaid said, Now I will speak to the king. It may be that the king will perform the request of his handmaid, for the king will hear to deliver his handmaid from the hand of the man who would destroy me and my son together, from the inheritance of Elohim. Then your handmaid said, The word of my lord the king will now be consoling, for like an angel of Elohim, so is my lord the king to discern good and bad. Therefore, Yahweh your Elohim will be with you. Then the king answered and said to the woman, Do not hide from me, I pray you, the thing that I will ask. And the woman said, Now let my lord the king speak. And the king said, Is not the hand of Joab with you in all this? And the woman answered and said, As your soul lives, my lord the king, no one can turn to the right hand or the left from what my lord the king has spoken. For your servant Joab, he called me, and he put all these words in the mouth of your handmaid. For the purpose of changing the current situation, your servant Joab has done this thing. But my lord is wise, according to the wisdom of an angel of Elohim, to know all things that are in the earth. Moreover, the king said to Joab, Behold now, I will do this thing. Therefore, go, bring the young man Absalom again. Then Joab fell to the ground on his face, and bowed himself, and thanked the king. And Joab said, Today your servant knows that I have found grace in your sight, my lord, O king, in that the king has fulfilled the request of his servant. So Joab arose and went to Gesher, and brought Absalom to Jerusalem. However, the king said, Let him return to his house, but do not let him see my face. Therefore Absalom returned to his house, but he did not see the king's face. Moreover, in all Jerusalem there was no one more praised than Absalom for his beauty. From the sole of his foot even to the crown of his head there was no blemish in him. And when he pulled his hair, for it was at every year's end that he pulled it, because it was heavy on him, therefore he pulled it, the weight of his hair on his head was 200 shekels, after the king's weight. And to Absalom there were born 3 sons and 1 daughter, whose name was Tamar. She was a woman of fair countenance. Furthermore, Absalom dwelt for 2 full years in Jerusalem, and did not see the king's face. Therefore Absalom sent for Joab, so that he might be sent to the king. But he would not come to him. And when he sent again, the second time, he would not come. So he said to his servants, See the field of Joab near mine, and he has barley there? Go and set it on fire. Therefore the servants of Absalom set the field on fire. Then Joab arose and came to the house of Absalom, and he said to him, Why have your servants set my field on fire? Therefore Absalom answered Joab, Behold, I sent to you, saying, Come here, so that I may send you to the king, to say, Why have I come from Gesher? It would have been better for me to stay there. Now therefore, let me see the king's face, and if there is any iniquity in me, let him kill me. So Joab came to the king, and told him. And when he had called Absalom, he came to the king, and bowed himself on his face to the ground before the king. Then the king kissed Absalom. Chapter 15. And it came to pass after this, that Absalom prepared himself chariots and horses, and 50 men to run before him. And Absalom rose up early, and stood beside the way of the gate. And it was so, when any man had a controversy, came to the king for judgment, then Absalom called to him, and asked, Of what city are you? And he would say, Your servant is from one of the tribes of Yisrael. Then Absalom said to him, Behold, your matters are good and right, but there is no man of the king to hear you. Moreover, Absalom said, Oh, if I were made judge in the land, so that every man who has a suit or cause might come to me, and I would do him justice. And it happened that when any man came near to do him praise, he put forth his hand and took it, and kissed him. And in this manner Absalom did to all Yisrael who came to the king for judgment. So Absalom stilled the hearts of the men of Yisrael. And it came to pass after 40 years that Absalom said to the king, I pray you, let me go and pay my vow in Hebron, which I have vowed unto Yahweh. For your servant vowed a vow while I abode in Gesher in Aram, saying, Truly, if Yahweh will bring me back to Jerusalem again, then I will serve Yahweh. Therefore the king said to him, Go in peace. So he arose and went to Hebron. But Absalom sent spies throughout all the tribes of Yisrael, saying, As soon as you hear the sound of a trumpet, then you will say, Absalom reigns in Hebron. With Absalom 200 men who were called went out of Jerusalem. However, they went in their ignorance, and they did not know anything. Also Absalom sent for Achitopel, the Gilani, the counselor of David, from his city, from Gilah, while he offered sacrifices. Moreover, the conspiracy was strong, For the people increased continually with Absalom. And there came a messenger to Dawid, saying, The hearts of the men of Yisrael are behind Absalom. And Dawid said to all his servants who were with him at Jerusalem, Arise and let us flee, or we will not escape from Absalom. Make speed and depart, or else he will overtake us suddenly and bring evil upon us, and strike the city with the edge of the sword. Therefore the servants of the king said to the king, Behold, your servants are ready to do whatever my lord the king appoints. Then the king went forth, and all his household followed him. But the king left 10 women, concubines, to keep the house. And the king went forth, and all the people with him, and tarried in a place that was far off. And all his servants passed on beside him, and all the Kereti, and all the Peleti, and all the Gitti. 600 men who were behind him from Gat passed on before the king. Then the king said to Aiti the Gitti, Why are you going with us also? Return to your place, and abide with the king, for you are a foreigner and an exile too. For you came yesterday. Today should I make you go up and down with us, seeing I go where I may? Return and take back your brethren. Mercy and truth is with you. However, Aiti answered the king and said, As Yahweh lives, and as my lord the king lives, surely in whatever place the Lord my king will be, whether in death or life, even there your servant will be also. Then Dawid said to Aiti, Come and pass over. Therefore Aiti the Gitti passed over, and all his men, and all the little ones that were with him. And the entire country wept with a loud voice, and all the people passed over. Also the king himself passed over the brook Kidron, and all the people passed over toward the way of the wilderness. Behold, Zadok also, and all the Elohim who were with him, bearing the ark of the covenant of Elohim. And they set down the ark of Elohim, and Abiathar went up, until all the people were done passing out of the city. And the king said to Zadok, Carry the ark of Elohim back into the city. If I find favor in the eyes of Yahweh, he will bring me again, and show it to me, and his habitation. But if he says, I have no delight in you, behold, here I am. Let him do to me as seems good to him. Also the king said to Zadok the priest, Are you not a Ra? Return to the city in peace, and your 2 sons with you, Achitzamat, your son, and Yehunatan, the son of Abiathar. Behold, I will tarry in the plain of the wilderness until word comes from you to certify me. Therefore Zadok and Abiathar carried the ark of Elohim to Jerusalem again, and they tarried there. Then Dawid went up by the ascent of Mount Olivet, and wept as he went up, and had his head covered, and he went barefoot. And all the people who were with him, each man covered his head. And they went up, weeping as they went up. And it was told to Dawid, saying, Ahithophel is among the conspirators with Absalom. Therefore Dawid said, O Yahweh, I pray you, turn the counsel of Ahithophel to foolishness. And it came to pass that when Dawid came to the top of the mount, where he worshipped Elohim, behold, Hushai the Archi came to meet him with his coat torn and dama upon his head, unto whom Dawid said, If you pass on with me, then you will be a burden to me. But if you return to the city and say to Absalom, I will be your servant, O king, as I have been your father's servant until now, so too I will now be your servant also. Then you might defeat the counsel of Ahithophel for me. Also, do you not have Zadok and Abiathar, the priests, with you there? Therefore it will be that whatever you hear from the king's house, you will tell to Zadok and Abiathar, the priests. Behold, they will be there with their 2 sons, Achitzamat of Zadok and Yehunatan of Abiathar, and by them you will send everything that you hear to me. So Hushai, the friend of Dawid, came into the city. Also Absalom came into Yerushalayim. Chapter 16. And when David was a little past the top of the hill, behold, Ziba, the servant of Mephibosheth, met him, with a couple of asses saddled, and upon them 200 loaves of bread, and 100 bunches of raisins, and 100 summer fruits, and a bottle of wine. And the king asked Ziba, What do you mean by these? And Ziba answered, The asses are for the household of the king to ride on, the bread and the summer fruit for the young men to eat, and the wine those who are faint in the wilderness may drink. And the king said, And where is your master's son? And Ziba said to the king, Behold, he abides at Yerushalayim, for he said, Today the house of Yeshariel will restore the kingdom of my father to me. Then the king said to Ziba, Behold, all of you belong to Mephibosheth. And Ziba said, I humbly beseech you, that I may find grace in your sight, my lord, O king. Furthermore, when King David came to Bahurim, behold, there was a man of the family of the house of Shaul, whose name was Shimei, the son of Gerah, came out. He came forth and cursed as he came, and he cast stones at David, and at all the servants of the king. Yet all the people and all the mighty men were on his right hand and on his left. And this is what Shimei said when he cursed, come out, you bloody man, and you man of worthlessness. Yahweh has returned upon you all the blood of the house of Shaul, in whose stead you have reigned. And Yahweh has delivered the kingdom into the hand of Absalom, your son. And behold, you are taken in your mischief, because you are a bloody man. Then Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, asked the king, Why does this dead dog curse my lord the king? Let me go over, I pray you, and take off his head. But the king said, What do I have to do with you, you sons of Zeruiah? So let him curse, because Yahweh has told him, Curse David. Therefore, who should say, Why have you done so? Then David said to Abishai and to all his servants, Behold, my son who came forth of my bowels seeks my life. How much more so Benjamin? Let him alone, and let him curse, for Yahweh has bidden him. And it may be that Yahweh will look upon my affliction, and that Yahweh will repay me goodness for his cursing today. And as David and the men went by the way, Shimei went along on the hillside over against them, and cursed as he went, and threw stones at him, and cast dust. Moreover, the king and all the people who were with him became weary and refreshed themselves there. Furthermore, Absalom and all the people, the men of Yeshariel, came to Yerushalayim, and Ahithophel with them. And it came to pass when Hushai, the Archi, the friend of David, had come to Absalom, that Hushai said to Absalom, Elohim save the king, Elohim save the king. Therefore Absalom asked Hushai, Is this your kindness to your friend? Why did you not go with your friend? Then Hushai answered Absalom, No, but to whom Yahweh and these people and all the men of Yeshariel choose, I will be his, and with him I will abide. And again, to whom will I serve? Is not the presence of his son like the presence of your father, whom I served? Thus I will be in your presence. Then Absalom asked Ahithophel, Give counsel among you what we will do. Then Ahithophel said to Absalom, Go in to your father's concubines, who he has left to keep the house, and all Yeshariel will hear that you are detested by your father. Then the hands of all who are with you will become strong. So they spread Absalom a tent upon the top of the house, and Absalom went in to his father's concubines in the sight of all Yeshariel. Moreover, the counsel of Ahithophel, which he counseled during those days, was as if a man had inquired at the word of Elohim. Such was the counsel of Ahithophel, both with David and with Absalom. Chapter 17. Moreover, Ahithophel said to Absalom, "Now let me choose out 12,000 men, and I will get up and pursue after Dawid tonight. And I will come upon him while he is weary and weak-handed, and I will make him afraid. Then all the people who are with him will flee, and I will strike the king only. Then I will bring back all the people to you. All will return except the man who you seek. All the people will be at peace." And the saying pleased Absalom well, and all the elders of Yeshariel. Then Absalom said, "Now call Hushai the Archi also, and let us hear what he says also." And when Hushai had come to Absalom, Absalom spoke to him, saying, "Ahithophel has spoken after this manner. Should we do his words? If not, speak yourself." And Hushai said to Absalom, "The counsel that Ahithophel has given is not good at this time." Then Hushai said, "You know your father and his men, that they are mighty men, and they are fierce in their minds, like a bear in the field robbed of her whelps. Also, your father is a man of war, and will not lodge with the people. Behold now, he is hidden in some pit or some other place, and it will come to pass when some of them are overthrown at the beginning, that whoever hears it will say, 'There is a slaughter among the people who follow Absalom.' Therefore, those who are valiant, whose heart is as the heart of a lion, will completely melt also. For all Yeshariel knows that your father is a mighty man, and those who are with him are valiant men. Therefore I counsel that all Yeshariel be gathered to you, from Dan even to Be'er-sheba, as the sand that is in the sea for multitude, and that you yourself go to battle among them. Then we will come upon him in some place that he is found, and we will fall upon him like the rain falls upon the Adamah. And of him and of all the men who are with him there will not be one left. Moreover, if he has gone into the city, then all Yeshariel will bring ropes to that city, and we will draw it into the river, until there is not one small stone found there." Then Absalom and all the men of Yeshariel said, "The counsel of Hushai the Archi is better than the counsel of Ahithophel." For Yehuah had appointed to defeat the good counsel of Ahithophel, for the intent that Yehuah might bring evil upon Absalom. Then Hushai said to Zadok and to Abiathar the priests, "Thus and thus Ahithophel counseled Absalom and the elders of Yeshariel, and thus I have counseled. Now therefore send quickly and tell Dawid, saying, 'Do not lodge tonight in the plains of the wilderness, but speedily pass over, or else the king will be swallowed up, and all the people who are with him.'" Now Yehunatan and Achitzamatz stayed at Ain Ragel, and a handmaid went and told it to them. Then they went and told King Dawid. They could not risk being seen going into the city. Nevertheless, a lad saw them and told Absalom, but both of them went quickly away and came to a man's house in Bahurim, who had a well in his court, where they went down. Furthermore, a woman took and spread a covering over the well's mouth, and spread ground grain on it, and the thing was not known. And when the servants of Absalom came to the woman of the house, they asked, "Where is Achimatz and Yehunatan?" Then the woman said to them, "They went over the brook of water." However, when they looked and could not find them, they returned to Yerushalayim. And it came to pass, after they were departed, that they came up out of the well and went, and told Dawid, and said to Dawid, "Arise and pass quickly over the water, for this is what Ahithophel has counseled against you." Therefore Dawid arose, and all the people who were with him, and they passed over Yarden. By the morning light there was not one missing of those who had gone over the Yarden. And when Ahithophel saw that his counsel was not followed, he saddled an ass and arose, and got himself to his house, to his city, and put his household in order, and hanged himself, and died, and was buried in the sepulchre of his father. Then Dawid came to Makneam, and Absalom passed over the Yarden, he and all the men of Yeshariel with them. Furthermore, Absalom made Amasa captain of the army instead of Joab, which Amasa was the son of a man whose name was Itra, a Yeshariali, who went into Abigail, the daughter of Nahash, the sister of Zeruiah, the mother of Joab. Moreover, Yeshariel and Absalom pitched in the land of Gilead. And it came to pass, when Dawid had come to Machnaim, that Shabi, the son of Nahash, of Rabbah, of the children of Ammon, and Makir, the son of Amniel, of Ludeber, and Barzillai, the Gileadi of Ragalim, brought beds and basins and earthen vessels and wheat and barley and flour and parched grain and beans and lentils and parched seed and honey and butter and sheep and cow cheese for Dawid and for the people who were with him to eat. For they said, "The people are hungry and weary and thirsty in the wilderness." Chapter 18. And Dawid numbered the people who were with him, and set captains of thousands and captains of hundreds over them. And Dawid sent forth a third part of the people under the hand of Joab, and a third part under the hand of Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, the brother of Joab, and a third part under the hand of Aiti the Gitti. And the king said to the people, "Surely I will go forth with you myself also." But the people answered, "You will not go forth, for if we flee away, they will not care for us. Even if half of us die, they will not care for us. But you are worth 10,000 of us. Now it is better that you help us out of the city." Therefore the king said to them, "Whatever seems best to you, I will do." And the king stood by the gate side, and all the people came out by hundreds and by thousands. Moreover, the king commanded Joab and Abishai and Aiti, saying, "For my sake deal gently with the young man, even with Absalom." And all the people heard when the king gave all the captains charge concerning Absalom. Then the people went out into the field against Yeshariel, and the battle was in the woods of Abraim, where the people of Yeshariel were slain before the servants of Dawid, and there was a great slaughter that day, 20,000. For the battle there was scattered over the face of all the country, and the woods devoured more people that day than the sword. Furthermore, Absalom met the servants of Dawid, and Absalom rode upon a mule, and the mule went under the thick burrows of a great oak, and his head caught hold of the oak, and he was presented between the heavens and the earth, and the mule that was under him went away. Moreover, a certain man saw it, and told Joab, and said, "Behold, I saw Absalom hanged in an oak." And Joab said to the man who told him, "And behold, you saw? So why did you not strike him there to the ground? And I would have given you 10 shekels of silver and a girdle." However, the man said to Joab, "Even if I would receive 1,000 shekels of silver in my hand, I would not put forth my hand against the son of the king. For in our hearing the king charged you and Abishai and Aiti, saying, 'Beware, do not touch the young man, Absalom, or else I would have worked falsely against my own life. For there is no matter hidden from the king, and you would have set yourself against me.' However, Joab said, 'Not so. I have been delayed facing you.' Then he took 3 darts in his hand and thrust them through the heart of Absalom, while he was still alive in the midst of the tree. Moreover, 10 young men who carried the armor of Joab encompassed around and struck Absalom and slew him. Then Joab blew the trumpet, and the people returned from pursuing after Yeshariel, for Joab held back the people. And they took Absalom and cast him into a great pit in the woods, and laid a very great heap of stones upon him. And all Yeshariel fled, each man to his tent. Now Absalom in his lifetime had taken and raised a pillar for himself, which is in the king's dell. For he said, 'I have no son to keep my name in remembrance.' And he called the pillar after his own name, and it is called Absalom's place to this day. Then Achimaaz the son of Zadok said, 'Now let me run and bear the king tidings.' how that Yehuah has avenged him of his enemies. However, Joab said to him, You will not bear tidings today, but you will bear tidings another day. Yet today you will not bear tidings, because the son of the king is dead. Then Joab told a Cushi, Go tell the king what you have seen. And the Cushi bowed himself to Joab and ran. Then Achitmatz, the son of Zadug, said to Joab yet again, Whatever happens, let me run behind the Cushi also, I pray you. However, Joab said, Why will you run, my son, seeing that you have no tidings ready? He said, Whatever happens, let me run. So he said to him, Run. Then Achitmatz ran by the way of the plains, and overran the Cushi. Furthermore, Dawid sat between the two gates, and the watchman went up to the roof over the gate of the wall, and lifted up his eyes, and looked, and saw a man running alone. Therefore the watchman cried, and told the king, and the king said, If he is alone, there is tidings in his mouth. And he came rapidly and drew near. Then the watchman saw another man running, and the watchman called to the porter, and said, Behold, another man running alone. And the king said, He brings tidings also. Then the watchman said, I think the first one runs like Achitmatz, the son of Zadug. And the king said, He is a good man, and comes with good tidings. Then Achitmatz called and said to the king, All is well. Then he fell down to the earth upon his face before the king, and said, Endowed is Yehuah your Elohim, who has delivered the men who have lifted up their hand against my lord the king. Then the king asked, Is the young man Absalom safe? But Achitmatz answered, When Joab sent the servant of the king, then I, your servant, saw a great uproar, but I do not know what. And the king said, Turn aside and stand here. So he turned aside and stood still. And behold, the Cushi came, and the Cushi said, Tidings, my lord the king, for Yehuah has avenged you today of all those who rose up against you. Then the king asked the Cushi, Is the young man Absalom safe? And the Cushi answered, The enemies of my lord the king and all who raised against you are like the young man. Therefore the king was very moved, and went up to the chamber over the gate, and wept. And as he went, he said this, O my son, Absalom, my son, Absalom. Would Elohim I had died for you, O Absalom, my son, my son. Chapter 19. And it was told to Joab, Behold, the king weeps and mourns for Absalom. Then the victory that day was turned into mourning for all the people, because the people heard that day how the king grieved for his son. And the people went softly into the city, like ashamed people who sneak away when they flee a battle. Moreover, the king covered his face, and the king cried with a loud voice, O my son, Absalom! O Absalom, my son, my son! Therefore Joab came into the house of the king and said, Today you have shamed the faces of all your servants, who have saved your life, and the lives of your sons and your daughters, and the lives of your wives, and the lives of your concubines today, and that you love your enemies and hate your friends. For you have declared today that you regard neither captains nor servants. For today I understand that if Absalom had lived, and all of us had died today, then it would have pleased you well. Now therefore, arise, go forth, and speak comforts to your servants. For I swear by Yehuah, if you do not go forth, there will not be one who stays with you tonight. And that will be worse for you than all the evil that happened to you from your youth until now. Therefore the king arose and sat in the gate, and they told to all the people, saying, Behold, the king sits in the gate. And all the people came before the king, for Yeshareel had fled, every man to his tent. Moreover, all the people were at strife throughout all the tribes of Yeshareel, saying, The king has saved us from the hand of our enemies, and he has delivered us from the hand of the Philistine. But now he has fled from the land for Absalom. However, Absalom, whom we anointed over us, is dead in battle. Now, therefore, why do we not speak a word to bring the king back?" Then the king sent to Zadok and to Abiathar the priests, saying, "Speak to the elders of Yehuda, saying, Why are you the last to bring the king back to his house? Seeing the speech of all Yeshariel has come to the king, even to his house. You are my brethren, you are my bones and my flesh. Why then are you the last to bring back the king?" And you say to Amasha, "Are you not of my bone and of my flesh? Elohim do to me, and more so, if you are not captain of the army before me continually in place of Joab." And he humbled the heart of all the men of Yehuda, even like the heart of one man, so that they sent this word to the king, "Return, you and all your servants." Thus the king returned and came to Yarden. And Yehuda came to Gilgal to go meet the king, to conduct the king over the Yarden. And Shimei, the son of Gera, a Benjamini, who was at Bakurim, hurried and came down with the men of Yehuda to meet King Dawid. And 1,000 men of Benjamin were with him, and Ziba, the servant of the house of Shaul, and his 15 sons and his 20 servants with him. And they went over the Yarden before the king. And a ferry boat went there to carry over the king's household, and to do what he thought good. And Shimei, the son of Gera, fell down before the king, as he came over the Yarden. And he said to the king, "Let not my lord impute iniquity to me, nor remember what your servant did previously, the day that my lord the king went out of Jerusalem, so that the king will take it to heart. For your servant knows that I have sinned. Therefore, behold, today I am first of all the house of Yusuf to go down to meet my lord the king." But Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, answered and said, "Will not Shimei be put to death for this, because he cursed the Mashiach of Yehovah?" Therefore Dawid answered, "What do I have to do with you, you sons of Zeruiah, such that you have been my advisaries today? Should any man be put to death today in Yeshariel? For today do I not know that I am king over Yeshariel?" Therefore the king said to Shimei, "You will not die." And the king swore to him. Then Mephibosheth, the son of Shaul, came down to meet the king. And he had neither prepared his feet, nor trimmed his beard, nor washed his clothes, from the day that the king departed until the day he came in peace. And it came to pass, when he had come to Jerusalem to meet the king, that the king said to him, "Why did you not go with me, Mephibosheth?" And he answered, "My lord, O king, my servant deceived me. For your servant said, I will saddle my ass, so that I may ride on it, and go to the king, because your servant is lame. And he has slandered your servant to my lord the king. But my lord the king is an angel of Elohim. Therefore, do what is good in your eyes. For the entire house of my father were dead men before my lord the king. Yet you set your servant among those who eat at your own table. Therefore, what right do I still have to cry to the king any more?" And the king said to him, "Why speak any more of your matters? I have declared, you and Ziba divide the land." And Mephibosheth said to the king, "Yes, let him take all, for as much as my lord the king has returned again in peace to his own house." Then Barzillai the Gileadi came down from Ragelim, and went over the Yarden with the king to conduct him over the Yarden. Now Barzillai was a very old man, 80 years old, and he provided provisions for the king while he laid in Maknaam, for he was a very great man. And the king said to Barzillai, "Come over with me, and I will feed you with me in Jerusalem." However, Barzillai said to the king, "How many years do I have, that I should go up with the king to Jerusalem? Today I am 80 years old. Can I discern between good and bad? Can your servant taste what I eat or drink? Can I hear the voice of a singing man or woman any more? Why then should your servant be a burden to my lord the king? Your servant has gone a little way over the Yarden with the king. So why will the king repay me with such a reward? Let your servant, I pray you, turn back again, so that I may die in my own city by the grave of my father and mother. But behold your servant Kimham. Let him go over with my lord the king, and do to him what seems good to you. And the king answered, Kimham will go over with me, and I will do to him what seems good to you, and whatever you require of me, that I will do for you. And all the people went over the Yarden, and when the king had come over, the king kissed Barzillai and endowed him. Then he returned to his own place. Furthermore, the king went to Gilgal, and Kimham went on with him, and all the people of Yehuda conducted the king, also half the people of Yeshariel. And behold, all the men of Yeshariel came to the king, and said to the king, Why have our brethren, the men of Yehuda, stolen you away, and have brought the king and his household, and all the men of Dawid over the Yarden? Therefore all the men of Yehuda answered the men of Yeshariel, Because the king is near of kin to us. Why then are you angry for this matter? Have we eaten at all from the king? Or has he given us any gift? Therefore the men of Yeshariel answered the men of Yehuda, and said, We have 10 parts in the king. Also, we have more in Dawid than you. Why then do you despise us? Did our advice not go first in bringing back the king? But the words of the men of Yehuda were fiercer than the words of the men of Yeshariel. Chapter 20. And there happened to be a man of worthlessness, whose name was Sheba, the son of Bikri, a Binyamini. And he blew a trumpet and said, We have no part in Dawid, nor have we any inheritance in the son of Yesi. Every man to his tents, O Yeshariel. So every man of Yeshariel went up from following Dawid, following Sheba, the son of Bikri. But the men of Yehuda clung to their king, from Yarden even to Yerushalayim. Then Dawid came to his house at Yerushalayim, and the king took the 10 women concubines, who he had left to keep the house, and put them in ward, and fed them, but did not go into them. So they were shut up to the day of their death, living in widowhood. Then the king said to Amasha, Assemble the men of Yehuda to me within 3 days, and be present yourself. So Amasha went to assemble Yehuda, but he tarried longer than the set time that was appointed to him. So Dawid said to Abishai, Now Sheba the son of Bikri will do us more harm than Absalom. Take the servants of your lord and pursue after him, or else he will get himself fenced cities and take it. So the men of Yoab and the Kereti and the Peleti and all the mighty men went out after him, and they went out of Yerushalayim to pursue after Sheba the son of Bikri. And when they were at the great stone that is in Gibeon, Amasha went before them. And Yoab was girded with the garment he put on, and a sword in its sheath was fastened upon his loins. And as it went forward, it slid out downward. And Yoab said to Amasha, Are you in health, my brother? Then Yoab took Amasha by the beard with the right hand to kiss him. However, Amasha did not notice the sword that was in Yoab's hand, and he struck him with it in the 5th, and shed out his bowels to the ground. But he did not strike again. Thus he died. So Yoab and Abishai his brother pursued after Sheba, the son of Bikri. Then one of the men of Yoab stood by him and said, He who favors Yoab, and he who is for Dawid, let him follow Yoab. And Amasha wallowed in blood in the middle of the highway. And when the man saw that all the people stood still, he removed Amasha out of the highway into the field, and cast a cloth upon him, when he saw that everyone who came by stood still. When he was removed out of the highway, all the people went on after Yoab to pursue Sheba, the son of Bikri. And he went through all the tribes of Yeshariel to Habel, and to Beit Ma'akah, and to the Berim. Then they gathered together and went after him also. Moreover, they came and besieged him in Habel, and they cast up an embankment against the city, and it stood in the trench, and all the people who were with Joab battered the wall to throw it down. Then a wise woman cried out of the city to Joab, "Here, here, I pray you, come near here, so that I may speak with you." And when he had come near to her, the woman said, "Are you Joab?" And he answered, "I am he." Then she said to him, "Hear the words of your handmaid." And he answered, "I hear." Then she spoke, saying, they were known to speak in old times, saying, "Ask Abel your inquiries, and thus it is resolved. I am peaceful and faithful in Yashariel. You seek to destroy a city and a mother in Yashariel. Why are you swallowing up the inheritance of Yahweh?" Therefore Joab answered and said, far be it from me, that I swallow up and destroy. The matter is not so. But a man of Mount Ephraim, Sheba, the son of Bichri by name, has lifted up his hand against the king, against Dawid. Only deliver him, and I will depart from the city. The woman said to Joab, "Behold, his head will be thrown down to you over the wall." Then, with her wisdom, the woman went to all the people, and they cut off the head of Sheba, the son of Bichri, and cast it out to Joab. And he blew a trumpet, and they retired from the city, every man to his tent. Now Joab was over the entire army of Yashariel, and Benayehu, the son of Yehoiada, was over the Kereti and over the Peleti, and Adaram was over the tribute, and Yehushapath, the son of Ahilud, was recorder, and Shewa was the scribe, and Zadug and Abiatar were the priests. Also Ira the Yari was the chief ruler around Dawid. Chapter 21. And there was a famine in the days of Dawid for 3 years, year after year. And Dawid inquired of Yahweh, and Yahweh answered, for Shaul, and for the bloody house, because he slew the Gibeonim. Therefore the king called the Gibeonim and spoke to them. Now the Gibeonim were not the children of Yashariel, but of the remnant of the Amori, and the children of Yashariel had sworn to them. However, in his zeal for the children of Yashariel and Yehuda, Shaul sought to slay them. Therefore Dawid said to the Gibeonim, "What can I do for you? And how can I make atonement, so that you will endow the inheritance of Yahweh?" Then the Gibeonim said to him, "We will not have silver nor gold of Shaul, nor his house. You will not kill any of our men in Yashariel." And he said, "Whatever you say, that I will do for you." And they answered the king, "The man who consumed us and plotted against us, so that we would be destroyed from remaining in any of the borders of Yashariel, let 7 of his sons, chosen by Yahweh, be delivered to us, and we will hang them unto Yahweh, and Shaul of Gibeat." Therefore the king said, "I will give them." However, the king spared Mephibosheth, the son of Yehunatan, the son of Shaul, because of the oath of Yahweh that was between them, between Dawid and Yehunatan, the son of Shaul. But the king took 2 sons of Ritzpah, the daughter of Aiah, who she bore to Shaul, Arani and Mephibosheth. Also the 5 sons of Michal, the daughter of Shaul, whom she brought up for Adriel, the son of Barzillai, the Mecholati. And he delivered them into the hands of the Gibeoni, and they hanged them in the hill before Yahweh. And the 7 fell together, and were put to death during the days of the harvest, on the first, in the beginning of the barley harvest. Moreover, Ritzpah, the daughter of Aiah, took sackcloth, and spread it upon the rock for her, from the beginning of the harvest until water dropped upon them out of the heavens, and did not allow the birds of the air to rest on them all day, nor the beasts of the field by night. And it was told to Dawid what Ritzpah, the daughter of Aiah, the concubine of Shaul, had done. Then Dawid went and took the bones of Shaul and the bones of Yehunatan his son from the men of Yabesh of Gilead, who had stolen them from the street of Beshan. when the Philistine had slain Shaul in Gibeah. Therefore he brought the bones of Shaul and the bones of Jehonatan his sons up from there. Also he gathered the bones of those who were hanged. Then the bones of Shaul and Jehonatan his son were buried in the country of Benjamin, in Zelah, in the sepulchre of Kish his father. And they performed all that the king commanded. And after that Elohim entreated for the land. And again the Philistine warred with Yeshariel. So Dawid and his servants with him went down and fought against the Philistine. However, Dawid grew weary. And Ishbu-Benob, who was among the sons of the giant, whose spear was 300 shekels of bronze in weight, being girded with a new sword, he tried to kill Dawid. However, Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, helped him, and struck the Philistine, and killed him. Then the men of Dawid swore to him, saying, "You will not go out to battle with us any more, so that you do not quench the light of Yeshariel." And it came to pass after this, that there was another battle with the Philistine again, at Gub. Then Sibbecai the Cushite killed Sop, who was one of the sons of the giant. Again there was a battle in Gub with the Philistine, where Elkanah, the son of Yaari Aragim, of Beit Lechem, slew the brother of Gilead, the Gitti, whose staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam. Still yet there was a battle in Gat. There was a man of great stature, who had 6 fingers on each hand, and 6 toes on each foot, 24 in number. Also he was born to the giant. And when he defied Yeshariel, Jehonatan the son of Shima'ah, the brother of Dawid, slew him. These 4 were born to the giant of Gat, and fell by the hand of Dawid and by the hand of his servants. Chapter 22. And Dawid spoke to Yehua the words of this song in the day that Yehua had delivered him out of the hand of his enemies, and out of the hand of Shaul. Yehua is my rock, and my fortress, and my deliverer. My Elohim is my rock, in him I will trust. He is my shield, and the horn of my salvation, my high tower, and my refuge, my Savior. You save me from violence. I will call on Yehua, who is worthy to be praised. Thus I will be saved from my enemies. When the waves of death encompass me, the floods of ungodliness are made afraid. The sorrows of hell encompass me. The snares of death prevented me. In my distress I called upon Yehua, and cried to my Elohim. And he heard my voice out of his temple, and my cry entered his ears. Then the earth shook and trembled. The foundations of the heavens moved and shook because of his wrath. Smoke went up out of his nostrils, and a devouring fire out of his mouth. Coals were kindled by it. Also he bowed to the heavens and came down. The darkness was under his feet. And he rode upon a cherub and flew. And he was seen upon the wings of the wind. And he made darkness pavilions around him, dark waters, thick clouds of the sky. Through the brightness before him were coals of kindled fire. Yehua thundered from the heavens, and the Most High uttered his voice, and he sent out arrows and scattered them, lightning and confused them. And the channels of the sea appeared, the foundations of the world were discovered, at the rebuking of Yehua, at the blast of the breath of his nostrils. He sent from above, he took me, he drew me out of many waters. He delivered me from my strong enemy, from those who hated me, for they were too strong for me. They prevented me in the day of my calamity, but Yehua was my supplier. Also, he brought me forth into a large place. He delivered me because he delighted in me. Yehua rewarded me according to my righteousness. According to the cleanliness of my hands, he has compensated me. For I have kept the ways of Yehua, and I have not wickedly departed from my Elohim. For I followed all his judgments, and I did not abandon his customs. Also, I was upright before him, and I have kept myself from my iniquity. Therefore, according to my righteousness, Yahweh has repaid me, according to my cleanliness in his sight. With the merciful, you will show yourself merciful. With the upright, you will show yourself upright. With the pure, you will show yourself pure. And with the twisted, you will show yourself tangled. And the afflicted people you will save. But your eyes are upon the proud, who you humble. For you are my lamp, O Yahweh, and Yahweh, you will lighten my darkness. For by you I will run through a troop. By my Elohim I have leaped over a wall. All his way is perfect. The word of Yahweh has been tried. He is a buckler to those who trust in him. For who is all except Yahweh? And who is a rock except our Elohim? All is my strong power, and he makes my way perfect. He makes my feet like the hooves of deer, and sets me upon high places. He teaches my hands to war, such that a bronze bow is bent by my arms. Also, you have given me the shield of your salvation, and your gentleness has made me great. You have enlarged my steps under me, so that my feet do not slip. I have pursued my enemies and destroyed them, and did not turn again until I had consumed them. And I have consumed them, and wounded them, so that they could not rise. Truly, they have fallen under my feet, for you have girded me with the strength to battle. Those who rose up against me, you humbled beneath me. Also, you have given me the necks of my enemies, so that I might destroy those who hate me. They looked unto Yahweh, but there was no one to save, and he did not answer them. Then I beat them as small as dust on the earth. I stomped them like the mire in the street, spreading them abroad. Also, you have delivered me from the striving of my people. You have made me the head of nations. People I did not know serve me. Foreigners submit themselves to me. As soon as they hear, they are obedient to me. Foreigners fade away, and they are frightened out of their holes. Yahweh lives, and endowed is my rock, and exalted is the Elohim of the rock of my salvation. It is all who avenges me, and who brings people down under me, and who brings me forth from my enemies. Also, you have lifted me up, high above those who rose up against me, and have delivered me from the violent man. Therefore, I will give thanks to you, O Yahweh, among the nations, and I will sing praises to your name. He is the tower of salvation for his king, and shows mercy to his Mashiach, to David, and to his seed forever. Chapter 23. Now, these are the last words of David. David, the son of Yesse, spoke, and the man was raised up on high, the Mashiach of the Elohim of Jacob, and the sweet psalmist of Yeshariel said, The Ruach of Yahweh spoke to me, and his utterance is on my tongue. The Allah of Yeshariel spoke to me. The rock of Yeshariel declared, The ruler within a man is righteous, when the ruler fears Elohim. And like the morning light, he will rise with the sun, a morning without clouds, from the shining. From the rain there is grass from the earth. Because it was not so in my house with all, yet an everlasting covenant was named to me, ordered in all things and sure, for all my salvation and all my desire, yet he will not grow, and the worthless are like thorns thrown away. And the man who touches them, he does so with iron, wood, and fire, and they will completely burn them with fire in the seat. These are the names of the mighty men who David had to sit in the seat, of those who are wise. The head of the three was Adinu the Atzni, because he slew 800 at one time. And after him was Alazer, the son of Dudu, the son of Ahii, who was among the three mighty men with David. when they defied the Pelishtim who had gone together to battle. Yet the men of Yeshariel had gone away. He arose and struck the Pelishtim until his hand was weary. But his hand gripped the sword, and Yehuah worked a great victory that day. And the people returned behind him only to plunder. And after him was Shammah, the son of Agi, the Harari. And the Pelishtim were gathered together into a troop, where there was a piece of ground full of lentils. And the people fled from the Pelishtim. But he stood in the midst of the ground and defended it, and slew the Pelishtim. And Yehuah worked a great victory. 3 of the 30 heads went down and came to Dawid during harvest time, to the cave of Adullam. And a troop of the Pelishtim pitched in the valley of Rephaim. Furthermore, Dawid was in a hold. Also, the garrison of the Pelishtim was in Beit Lechem. And Dawid longed and said, "Oh, if I were given one drink of the water from the well of Beit Lechem, which is by the gate." Therefore the 3 mighty men broke through the encampment of the Pelishtim, and drew water out of the well of Beit Lechem, which is by the gate, and took it, and brought it to Dawid. Nevertheless he would not drink it, instead poured it out unto Yehuah. And he said, "Be it far from me, O Yehuah, that I will do this, the blood of the men who went in jeopardy of their lives." Therefore he would not drink it. The 3 mighty men did these things. Also Abishai, the brother of Yoab, the son of Zeruiah, was head of the 3. And he lifted up his spear against 300 and killed them. Therefore he earned a name by the 3. From the 3 he was honored and became captain. However, he did not become the 3. And Beni-Yehu, the son of Yehoiada, the son of a valiant man, of Kabatzal, had done many acts. He slew 2 men of Moab, who were like lions. Also, he went down and slew a lion in the middle of a pit while it snowed. Also, he slew a Mitri, an impressive man, and the Mitri had a spear in his hand, but he went down with a staff. Then he plucked the spear out of the hand of the Mitri and slew him with his own spear. Beni-Yahu, the son of Yehoiada, did these things, and had a name among the 3 mighty men. He was more honorable than the 30. However, he did not become one of the 3. Moreover, Dawid set him over his guard. Ashaal, the brother of Yoab, was one of the 30. Elchanan, the son of Dudu, of Beit Lechem. Shammah the Haradi. Alika the Haradi. Chilet the Palethi. Ara the son of Akesh, the Techkuai. Abiezer the Anetati. Miboni the Hushati. Salmon the Ahachi. Maharai the Nethupati. Cheleb the son of Baana, a Nethupati. Ayiti the son of Ribai, out of Gibeat, of the children of Binyamin. Beni-Yahu the Piratuni. Hidai of the brooks of Gaash. Abi Albun the Arbati. Azmawet the Bahumi. Alihaba the Sha'alani. Of the sons of Hashem, Yehunatan. Shammah the Harati. Ahiam the son of Sharer the Harati. Alipaleth the son of Sebi, the son of the Ma'akati. Aliam the son of Achitopel the Gilani. Hezrai the Carmeli. Pa'ari the Avri. Igal the son of Yetan of Zubah. Zelek the Ammoni. Nachri the Beeruti, armor-bearer to Yoab the son of Zeruiah. Aira and Itri. Gareb and Itri. Auriah the Hitti. 37 in all. Chapter 24. Again the anger of Yehuah was kindled against Yeshariel, and he moved Dawid against them, to say, "Go number Yeshariel and Yehudah." For the king said to Yoab, the captain of the army that was with him, "Go now through all the tribes of Yeshariel, from Dan even to Be'er Sheba, and number the people, so that I may know the number of the people. Then Joab said to the king, Now may Yahweh your Elohim add to the people like them 100-fold, and may the eyes of my lord the king see it. But why does my lord the king delight in this thing? Nevertheless, the word of the king prevailed against Joab and against the captains of the army. Therefore Joab and the captains of the army went out from the presence of the king to number the people of Yeshariel. And they passed over the Yarden and pitched in Aruar, on the right side of the city, that is in the middle of the river of God, and toward Azer. Then they came to Gilead, and to the land of Tachtim Chadeshi, and they came to Dan Ya'an, and around Tzidun, and to all the cities of the Chihwi and of the Canaani, and they went out to the south of Yehuda, to Be'er Sheba. And when they had gone through the entire land, they came to Yerushalayim at the end of 9 months and 20 days. And Joab gave up the sum of the number of people to the king, and there were 800,000 valiant men who drew the sword in Yeshariel, but the men of Yehuda were 500,000 men. Then, after he had numbered the people, the heart of Dawid struck him, and Dawid said unto Yahweh, I have sinned greatly by what I have done, and now I beseech you, O Yahweh, take away the iniquity of your servant, for I have done very foolishly. For when Dawid was up in the morning, the word of Yahweh came to the prophet Gad, the seer of Dawid, saying, Go and say to Dawid, Thus saith Yahweh, I offer you 3 things. Of them choose one for yourself, so that I may do it to you. Therefore God came to Dawid and told him and asked him, Should 7 years of famine come to you in the land? Or should you flee for 3 months before your enemies, while they pursue you? Or should there be 3 days of pestilence in the land? Now consider and see what answer I will return to him whom sent me. And Dawid said to God, I am in great distress. Let us fall now into the hand of Yahweh, for his mercy is great. But do not let me fall into the hand of Adam. So Yahweh sent a pestilence upon Yeshariel from the morning until the appointed time, and 70,000 men died there, among the people from Dan even to Be'er Sheba. Then the angel stretched out his hand to destroy Yerushalayim. But Yahweh was consoled of the evil, and said to the angel who destroyed the people, It is enough, hold back your hand. And the angel of Yahweh was by the threshing floor of Araunah the Yebusi. Then Dawid spoke to Yahweh when he saw the angel who struck the people, and said, Behold, I have sinned, and I have done wickedly. But these sheep, what have they done? Let your hand, I pray you, be against me, and against the house of my father. Then that day God came to Dawid and said to him, Go up, build an altar unto Yahweh in the threshing floor of Araunah the Yebusi. Therefore Dawid went up as Yahweh commanded, according to the words of God. Moreover, Araunah looked and saw the king and his servants coming toward him. Then Araunah went out and bowed himself before the king, on his face upon the ground. And Araunah said, Why has my lord the king come to his servant? And Dawid said, To buy the threshing floor from you, to build an altar unto Yahweh, so that the plague may be held back from the people. Therefore Araunah said to Dawid, Let my lord the king take and offer up what seems good to him. Behold, here is oxen for an ascension offering, also the threshing instruments, and the yokes of the oxen for wood. Araunah gives everything, like a king, to a king. Then Araunah said to the king, Unto the king may Yahweh your Elohim accept you. However, the king said to Araunah, No, but surely I will buy it from you for a price. I will not offer ascension offerings unto Yahweh my Elohim from what costs me nothing. Therefore Dawid bought the threshing floor and the oxen for 50 shekels of silver. Then Dawid built an altar unto Yahweh there, and offered ascension offerings and restoration sacrifices. So Yahweh was entreated for the land, and the plague was held back from Yashareal.